Welcome to the fairest show on television. First tonight from Washington. It's becoming more apparent, probably is apparent at this point, that the real drama in the 2024 presidential election is going to be among Democrats. Almost daily now, it looks less likely that President Biden will be the Democratic nominee, and more likely former President Trump will be the Republican nominee. We'll get to Mr. Biden in a few minutes with tonight's edition of Newsom Watch. The California governor is on Cuomo in the next hour. His interview, Newsom's interview, gives every indication of a man in the on-deck circle just waiting for the call-up. From today's Washington Post, a growing number of polls are showing voters concerned about President Biden's age and energy. Democratic lawmakers have hesitated to offer full-throated endorsements of his running mate. Prominent commentators have ruminated on whether he should drop out of the presidential race. That's the Washington Post. This is unheard of for a sitting president, as we've told you for a while now. 2024 is going to look a lot more like 1968 than it does 1980. 1968 being when Lyndon Johnson dropped out. But let's deal with what was supposed to be the crazy, bruising primary fight among Republicans. Well, that has not happened. There hasn't even been a fight, even a pillow fight. As Trump predicted, each indictment has only made his poll numbers go up. It defies political logic. Nationally, he's 44 points up on his main contenders. In some polls, he is near 60. In the early voting states where candidates build the most momentum heading into Super Tuesday, he's up 30 points in Iowa, 31 in New Hampshire, 34 in South Carolina. That's with two people from South Carolina running. That puts Trump at a very unique advantage. It's almost unheard of at this point in the primaries except for an incumbent. And basically, perhaps we should realize that Donald Trump is an incumbent. He can now start appealing to the center. And he's doing that starting with the striking auto workers.
Whose side are you on in this?
I'm on the side of making our country great. The auto workers are not going to have any jobs when you come right down to it, because if you take a look at what they're doing with electric cars are going to be made in China. The auto workers are not going to have any. I'll tell you what, the auto workers are being sold down the river by their leadership, and their leadership should endorse Trump.
Noteworthy that the United Auto Workers has not endorsed President Biden. Trump sees an opening here for a conservative voice amid frustrations with President Biden. There's absolutely no reason for him not to take it. This is from the Huffington Post. In line with his vow not to take the stage with other Republicans, he will head to Detroit on the day of the next primary debate. And again, he also has told them he has no reason to debate the Republican field. The age-old strategy for Republicans is to seek the presidential nomination by running to the far right. That's what Donald Trump did in 2016. But then during the general election, you play to the center. Not so right now. Donald Trump has already started his tack to the center. For example, on the issue of abortion.
Democrats are able to kill the baby after birth.
Let me talk to you.
Nobody wants that.
Democrats don't want that.
So
either.
we're going to come together.
I want to know what you want. I want to know what you're going to do if you're
reelected. We are going to come
together. Would you sign federal legislation that would ban abortion at 15 weeks?
No. Let me just tell you what I do. I'm going to come together with all groups, and we're going to have something that's acceptable.
That is the answer of a man running in the general election, not a guy trying to win the Republican primary. With us now, political consultant Shermichael, Singleton, Scott Tranter, Director of Data Science for our partners at Decision Desk HQ. Gentlemen, good to see you. Shermichael, any reason to think that Trump will not be the nominee?
No reason at all. And I think some individuals are beginning to wonder. I think so. I was just in a Midwestern state last weekend, and voters, even those who were supporting other candidates, are beginning to say maybe it's time to consolidate around the likely nominee, that being Donald Trump. Leland, so that the party can begin to focus its message on a general election strategy versus the infighting that you see in a primary process, which can be challenging, as you know, as a pollster, when you have to pivot to a general.
You know, Scott, we've talked a lot about polling. We'll talk about betting odds for a second, which sometimes are a little more predictive. Betting odds on presidential candidates: Trump plus 270, DeSantis plus 1850, Ramaswamy plus 2400. it's more likely that Michelle Obama is going to be the nominee. You get better odds on that than you do on Ramaswamy. Almost as likely as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as it is Ron DeSantis. What does this say? What do the betting markets know that the pundits on TV who want to make you think this is a real race don't?
Well, off the top of my head, if I could get Trump at plus 270, I'd lay some money on that. I think that's probably a little bit underestimating his odds or likelihood. But what the betting markets are is they understand, it's people putting their money on the line, and they understand what the mechanics are. And the mechanics of the race are this. Right now, as you showed in the polling, Trump is up anywhere 30 to 40 points, depending on the average. We're 4 or 5 months away from Iowa, and then a whole bunch of contests after that. And a presidential primary is about momentum. So if Donald Trump wins Iowa, wins New Hampshire, wins South Carolina, he's got momentum. That's not enough to win a nomination, but the momentum's on his side. And right now, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I think it was George H.W. Bush who called it the Big Mo. Back in 1992. Harris polling, courtesy of The Hill, Biden trails GOP candidates. The argument against Donald Trump on the Republican side had always been one of electability. That's Nikki Haley's argument over and over and over again, Shermichael. But then you think about it, Biden versus Trump wins by 4 points. Haley wins by 4 points. Tim Scott barely by 2, so inside the margin of error. Is the electability argument now gone, or is this simply talking about the weakness of Joe Biden and Republicans should not measure the drapes?
I wouldn't say that it's necessarily gone, but I think when you look at the crosstabs, it's fair to say that it's fading. I mean, I think there are some legitimate questions about President Biden's age and his mental abilities. I'm not saying this, just some voters believe this from what they see, and his ability to lead for another 4 years. Will Kamala Harris become president at some point? Her favorabilities are less than Biden's. And also, I think, Leland, the economy. It's not great. The administration would have most Americans believe the recession is improving, jobs have increased, but wages haven't necessarily increased with these recession numbers.
People think they feel poor.
No, absolutely. And I think when you look at other metrics, energy, cost of food, gas, et cetera, these things are all going up. And from the average voter, particularly independent swing voters in some of those battleground states, they're looking at these things and saying, Biden was okay to sort of get us out of the COVID mess, if you will, but I like the Trump economy better. I think I'll hold my nose and go back with Trump.
All right, so that's the question. Are you better off 4 years ago than you are today? That was Reagan's famous question in 80. I think about the UAW strike and the fact that Donald Trump is headed there. Is this part of the realignment, Scott, between college-educated progressives who are now moving more towards the Democratic Party and rural/suburban working whites moving towards Donald Trump?
Absolutely. We saw this in 2016. That's why Pennsylvania was so competitive the last two cycles, especially Western Pennsylvania. I look at this as, this is a very smart move by him. Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, those are going to be key battleground states if Donald Trump is the nominee, especially against Joe Biden. And those states were separated by tens of thousands of votes. 160,000 United Auto Workers, I believe, are on strike, probably more when you factor in families and dependents and things like that. This is really smart for him.
Well, and you factor in all the suppliers that supply the plants that are already laying people off.
Can I throw in quickly in Pennsylvania? I think they just announced they're going to go to automatic registration of voting. There are about a little over 2 million non-college educated white voters in Pennsylvania. They lean towards Donald Trump.
All right, gentlemen, good to see you. The
Thank you.
realignment continues. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.